everyone. I'm Jillian Sidoti, and this is the Last Life Ever podcast. And I'm joined with my co-host, Jeffrey Holst. Jeff, who do we have on the show today?
We have Lee Abbamonte on the show today, and I'm super excited because he is maybe the youngest person ever to travel to every country in the world, plus the North and South Pole, which makes me feel really lame because I'm older than him, and I haven't been to any of those amazing places. So without further ado, I think we should just bring Lee on the show. What do you think?
Right after this.
Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Hey, Jillian, you're back.
Hi,
there you
there's
are.
our buddy Lee. Hi, Lee.
What is up,
Lee,
guys? How are you?
We are amazing. Thanks for coming on the show. And I apologize in advance if I said your last name wrong. I realized right after I said it, I never verified your pronunciation. So
No, it was pretty good.
Close enough, right? Yeah. Right. Well, anyway, so thanks for coming on the show. Jillian and I have been really excited about this all day. Actually, for like a couple of weeks now, ever since I first heard of you. And man, you're so kind because I was looking at your Instagram and you got like 9 million followers or something like that. And, yeah, well, something like that, right? Like it's a lot anyway. And I tried to send you a message on there and you're blocked off. You don't even let people send messages to you on Instagram. So you're pretty hardcore. But yet you still agreed to come on the show. So thanks for that.
Man, there's some weird people out in Instagram land. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, okay. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I get that. Hey, Lee, I'm fascinated by you. I absolutely am fascinated by you. And how old were you when you had finally achieved visiting all of the countries in the world?
I was 32. And if I knew it was going to be a big deal, I would have done it a lot younger.
What inspired you to reach this goal? Were you trying to break a world record, or what was the inspiration behind all this?
Honest to God, I just like traveling. I just thought it was a fun thing to do. And I started doing all this stuff way before social media and all that. And I was just doing it for fun. And my sole goal was basically to go to 100 countries by the time I was 30. And I did that at 26 or 27 or something like that. And, after that, I was like, well, why not go to all of them? And that's pretty much what I did. And, I wasn't ever expecting to, get any publicity or do anything with it. I just did it just for fun, just for the love of it. And just because I thought it'd be a cool thing to do. And, it's a good pickup line in a bar and all that kind of stuff,
So for people who maybe don't know, how many countries exactly are we talking about here?
There's 193 UN countries, UN member states, and then sometimes you might hear a number like 196, 197, 198. That includes places like Taiwan and Kosovo and in places like this that are kind of de facto countries. And then there's another list where there's over 300, and that includes territories and unique destinations. And then, of course, that's exclusive of this North and South Pole, which I've also been to as well.
Oh, yeah, I got to talk to you about that too, because I was reading on your blog about your trip to the South Pole and then about your trip to the North Pole. It sounds like it was a little challenging to get to both of those places. I have not been to either, just to be clear. Not been to Antarctica at all, or anywhere near the North Pole other than Alaska or something. But I think that North Pole, Alaska is not what we're talking about, right? That little town in Alaska, that's not what you meant.
No. Do you know that North Pole, Alaska had a Blockbuster video until about 6 months ago? It was the last place that had one.
Do you know, it's funny. I actually did know that because I saw it when I was there, like in 2016. I was like, "There's a Blockbuster here," and my wife was like, "That can't be real," and I'm like, "No, it's literally right there."
Yeah. So that picture you're showing right now, that's actually the South Pole. But yeah, the North Pole is equally as difficult to get to. The South Pole is more challenging because Antarctica is a continent, and what you're seeing there is almost at 10,000 feet. So to get there is a real challenge, and it's very, very expensive. And you're kind of at the mercy of the elements, like the weather, especially. And then the transportation options are not exactly like, just hop on a shuttle plane or something like that. So there's a lot of logistics, a lot of pain in the ass stuff to deal with. The Russians run the logistics down there, so it's a pain to deal with them. And again, you're just kind of at the mercy of the elements and hoping everything works. But I'm telling you, that picture you see right there, that's the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Oh, wow.
So if you read the blog post that you did about going to the South Pole, well, really two, right? Because you first tried to go to the South Pole, I think like 2012 or 13. Yeah. 13. And then were thwarted by royalty. Literally by royalty, Jillian. He was thwarted by royalty.
What happened? To the South Pole.
Yeah, so that fucker Prince Harry, he kind of screwed me up, and the Russians gave him and his team preference over me and my team, and they ended up. Long story, but there was a plane that crashed. Right, there was two planes that were able to fly and land on skis to go to the South Pole. And you have to travel about 2,000 miles from where we were at Novolazarovska, a Russian base. To get to the South Pole, you have to stop at this place called 83 degrees and then continue down to 90 degrees. Now, Harry was down there with something called Walking with the Wounded, which is a wounded veteran charity, which was an awesome thing. We loved meeting him and doing all this stuff. But when push came to shove, one of the planes crashed. So there was only one plane that could carry maximum of 12 people at a clip. They gave Harry and his team, who had like 40 people on it, all the flights when we were down there. So we got shut out, even though we paid a shit ton of money to do it. And so Harry was a good dude. And but I hold that against him a little bit.
Well, it's gotta feel a little bit better since you eventually made it, right? Like, because you went back the next year.
Yeah. So 2014, I went back again, and I couldn't believe I was able to pull it off and go 2 years in a row. But this year we made it. We made it by the skin of our teeth. Actually, just past the anniversary, December 19th, 2014. And I stood at the bottom of the world, and at that time, that was and still is the pinnacle of my travel life. And then about a year and a half later, I went to the North Pole, and I was the youngest person to go to every country in both poles. So that was pretty wild, man. And it was cool. And in hindsight, it's great that I failed the one time and then went back the second time and made it. But man, I was pissed at the time.
So when I was reading it, the article about the South Pole, actually, there's a quote in there that I thought was really amazing. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah.
Because you probably don't remember everything you wrote on your blog. You said, "It's not often in life, in fact, never, that you really have no control over something that you really want desperately. In my life, if I've ever wanted something, I've gone out and taken it, or I've worked really hard to achieve it, whatever it is. I just decide I want it and I make it happen one way or the other. But with the South Pole, all I could do is put myself into the position and hope." And that was really yeah,
Yeah, man, that's a good quote.
I know. That's why I brought it up. I thought it was amazing.
But yeah, man, it was this feeling of helplessness, and you gotta understand, it's like over $100,000 to go down there and do that, right? So I'd spent like a fortune, and it wasn't just like an overnight thing. I'd like planned this for years, you know what I mean? Like to make this happen. And, I'd gotten a group together, and, like communally, we've spent over $1 million just to go down and do this. And to not be able to achieve the goal and to be all the way down where we were. And we camped out in Antarctica for like 3 weeks, man. And, eventually to not make it was just, to me, it was just diabolical and so frustrating. And I had a hard time with it. But at the same time, it motivated me to go back. And I knew, or at least I thought I would probably have the opportunity to do it again the following year, because I had an overflow of people who were interested in going. So just made it happen, man. And then again, the second year, it was really close. We made it by the skin of our teeth right at the end there. But that, again, when we finally got there, it was just this like feeling of elation. It's like hard to explain. When I summited Kilimanjaro, I kind of felt similar. But this one was even better because I never failed to Kili.
Okay, rub it in. It's almost like you read my blog or something. I summited Kili this year, actually.
Oh, did it? Nice.
Yeah, in February, right before the shutdown, and it was hard. I mean, it was hard.
Yeah, it's not easy.
And there is an element of randomness. My brother was with me on the mountain, and he ended up with acute mountain sickness, and his oxygen level was in the low 50s, and if he'd continued, he would have died. He ended up 4 days in a hospital in Tanzania, which that's an experience in and of itself. As you know, having been to Tanzania, you can imagine the hospitals are kind of crazy there.
What was he, Moshi or Arusha?
He was in Moshi. Yeah, they took him right off. I mean, like the helicopter wasn't operational, so he had to walk 27 kilometers. He was at Kosovo camp, summit night, and he had to walk off the mountain at 6 p.m. Instead of sleeping to get ready to summit.
What was that, like the Lemosho route or whatever?
Yeah, Lemosho, yeah.
Yeah. I did the Machame route. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was it. I mean, the Kili was, it was great, obviously. I mean, I would never do it again, though. It was too hard.
Well, you did it once, but you don't have to do it again.
It's enough, right? I don't have to do that one again. Although I get the impression you might go to the South Pole again if you had an opportunity.
If the situation was right, yeah. I mean, now I kind of send people there. It's like one of the businesses I'm involved in. I kind of like, basically make a commission on sending people to the South Pole, which is a nice little business, back when we could travel.
It's cool. On my list. I mean, I'm not joking about that. It's been on my list ever since I discovered that it was actually possible for normal people to go there. The North Pole is actually almost harder in a way, right? Because there isn't like a really easy, organized way to get to the North Pole. Even though you can get there, you have more control over it. It seems like it's more difficult to get a tour there.
Well, there's two ways to get to the North Pole. You could take an icebreaker from Murmansk, Russia. It's called 50 Years of Victory, and it takes 15 days, and you just go and you're there, and okay, I'm at the North Pole. Or you could do it the way I did it and take a helicopter from the Russian ice camp Barneo that they set up each year at 89.5 degrees. And from there, you take a helicopter to 90 degrees north. Because what people don't realize is the difference between the North and South Pole is the South Pole is in Antarctica. It's at the center of Antarctica, whereas the North Pole, it's at nearly 10,000 feet, whereas the North Pole is on floating sea ice and it moves constantly. So you have to fly to a number, 90 degrees north, 0 degrees latitude, and so that's what you're searching for. So there's no distinct point. Whereas the South Pole, there's South Pole Station, and then there's the geographic pole and the ceremonial pole, which is what you showed before.
Oh wow!
Yeah, how far is it from the ceremonial pole to the actual pole? It's not very far, right? You walk.
It's about 50 feet.
Yeah, I was going to say it isn't super far.
I mean, but it changes every year. It moves a couple feet each year.
Sure.
Let's talk for a second about other places. Like what? I mean, because the South and North Pole are like. Okay, maybe we'll get there someday. But if
we just gotta call Lee if we want to go to the South Pole, apparently.
Right. If you were talking to somebody who's like, I want to start traveling and I've never traveled before, where would you recommend they start?
I would recommend, and I say this all the time, do exactly what I did. I went to London. That was the first place I ever left America. And it's great because I always say it's a good place to get your big toe wet in the world because they speak English, which is nice. It's Europe. So you get the culture, you feel comfortable. And then from there, London, it's easy to get to a lot of places. You got the Channel, you got boats, you got planes. It's just easy to get around and you just kind of feel comfortable. Or Canada would be another one, which is obviously easy. You could drive there. Right. But to really go into the world, I say London, and that just really made me feel comfortable. And then I went to Paris a couple of weeks after I got to. I studied abroad in London, and I went to Paris, and then Spain, and then Germany, and then I was kind of hooked. I was like, "Wow, this travel thing's pretty cool."
Yeah.
And that was when you were in college or high school when you did the study.
Yeah, college, junior year. I never left the country before I was 20.
Wow.
And just basically on a whim, I studied abroad.
Wait, you never left the country before you were 20, and then when you were 26, you had gotten to 100 countries?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a pretty good run of travel right there.
Well, I don't half-ass anything, man. You got to realize this about me. If I'm doing something, I'm all in.
If I'm getting too personal, forgive me, but that's a young age to do all that. How did you finance it?
Yeah, I started a company when I was in college. I sold it, made some money, And then I was in corporate finance and in banking on Wall Street for a while, and I always did pretty well. So that's
awesome.
how I paid for everything.
That's very cool. So now, and let's talk about that while you were traveling, because traveling isn't just money consuming, it's time consuming. So how did you maintain a business or a job while traveling?
Time and money, the two great equalizers of travel, I always say. And then of course the actual desire to do it. When I was in college and then in business school, I just traveled like in between semesters and stuff like that. And on the weekends or basically whenever I could. And I was always lucky because I had friends who liked to travel too and had the time and money to do it, which again, the two great equalizers, it's hard to find people to go with that you can stand. And, so that was pretty much it. And then when I was on Wall Street, I was always pretty good at my job, and I would always like basically hit my numbers or do whatever I had to do. So then if I wanted to take 3 weeks, I would just kind of ask the powers that be, and they'd be like, okay, you're doing your job. So, if you want to go away for a month, that's okay with us. And, and I'm sure shit took advantage of it.
That's fascinating because a lot of people who have like regular corporate jobs really don't have that kind of flexibility. So you were actually really fortunate that you were in a career where you could actually do that kind of stuff. And that's something that Jillian and I talk about a lot on the show. So I have a question for you, and I'll preface this by saying you probably get asked this a lot, and it's probably a terrible question. But what if you could pick a favorite place in the world, where would it be?
I was going to say the question before you even asked it.
Yeah, I know. Everyone always asks it, and it's really a bad question. I know that as a traveler, but I think people want to know the answer. So, I'll give you the real answer as opposed to the stock answer I would normally say wherever I am. But the truth is, if I was going to go somewhere and I could go anywhere, it'd be places that are similar to America in that they're big, they're varied, they have like different landscapes like cities and beaches and mountains and deserts and islands and different kind of culture within a country. Places like Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or Argentina, Brazil, places like that. And we're in one place you get a real variety and you can really kind of dig deep into a place. And it helps if they speak English, which is obviously nice. I also speak Spanish, which is helpful in Latin America. But the language has never been a real issue for me anywhere. You just kind of figure it out. But Southern Africa is just another awesome place. Not just South Africa, all of Southern Africa I love. And of course, everyone loves Europe. I mean, Italy, Spain, France, Greece, Turkey, they're all wonderful. But I mean, that's almost too easy to say that, So your answer is literally everywhere.
Well, I got exactly what you were saying.
I know what you're saying. He dodged my question, but that's okay. I prefer that answer.
No, I don't think he did it all.
I was expecting him to say Namibia, but
Okay. But
sorry,
Lee,
my dog is barking.
That's fine. It happens. But Lee, where keeping that in mind, and let's just say the goal isn't to go to every country. Where should people be avoiding, in your opinion?
I mean, there's a lot of places. Listen, there's a lot of places I was at, and I was just like, well, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I in Afghanistan right now during the war? You know what I mean? I was
that's probably not smart.
This is probably dumb, But then, I'm like one of these weird people who gets off on that kind of stuff. It's like fun. Like my last country was Libya during the Arab Spring in 2011. And I was in Iraq, Afghanistan during the war. I went back to Somalia last year just to go to Mogadishu, just for a goof, So it's it really depends. I mean, but the places that really kind of suck are the places where there's just nothing. Places in Central Africa, maybe on the coast of West Africa. There's some places there's just nothing to do, and they're just kind of like dust bowls. So those are the ones that really tell you to avoid. And maybe some little islands in the middle of the Pacific. It sounds like paradise, but some of those are just super boring. You get there and you're like, okay, I'm here. Now what? And then you're like, there's not a damn thing to do.
Oh, wow. And it's not even a nice beach or anything. Is that what you're saying?
Well, some of the beaches are nice. The problem is it's literally there's nothing to do. And,
So you don't recommend people go to Kiribati?
Kiribati is how it's actually pronounced.
Yeah, well, I've never been there, so how would I know that?
It's a terrible place. I'm not gonna lie.
Kiribati.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
On the globe there.
No, I want to really quick, Lee, you just stopped traveling. You moved to Los Angeles, you said. Are you originally from Los Angeles or you're from somewhere else?
No, I'm from Trumbull, Connecticut, and then I went to University of Maryland, then I lived in New York until last week. So for 21 years. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't stopped traveling. I just happen to be living in LA right now. I was living in New York for a long time. That was this morning, I think, in Baja California.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. So you still have been going to Mexico, which I find awesome because Mexico happens to be one of my favorite places. I think it has a lot of the things you talk about. I mean, it's not we don't speak the same language
looks really good though.
But they have different landscapes. They have different cultures within a culture. They have a lot of things to do. They have, Mexico City's, huge, biggest city in the world. So, I mean, they have all of that. So to me, it checks all of your listen. Yep. I think it's amazing that you just came back from Mexico. How are you traveling now? I know you said you're sitting in Los Angeles for the time being, but when are you going to go back out there again?
Well, I mean, I've been traveling pretty much nonstop since about May 29th when I left New York. And, I've been traveling all over. I've been in 36 states since May, and I've been in four countries, including Mexico, 4 times. And, you can travel safely and responsibly as long as you do just that, travel safely and responsibly. And I'm a big believer in that. And, stuff is what it is right now. And it's either you're going to do nothing or you're going to keep living your life. And, for the life of me, I wish we had just taken care of this back in March and April, but obviously that didn't happen. So we are where we are. And I think we've all suffered enough. I know my business has gotten crushed. So, for me, this is what I love to do and what I'm going to, there's my dog. And
he was cute. I didn't mean to stop on him.
Yeah. And in Mexico, like you said, I could live in Mexico. It's one of those places, like you mentioned, that ticks all the boxes. Mexico's massive. People don't even realize. And Mexico City, I always say, is the most underrated city in the world.
Oh, really? Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good to hear. No, I just happen to love Mexico. I've talked about moving to Mexico before. People think I'm crazy. I've driven to Mexico. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, it's not that bad.
Well, you live 45 minutes from the border. So.
Yeah. So you can just drive into Mexico.
When I lived in Michigan, we went to Canada all the time. Same concept, right? I mean, if it's like an hour away. I've driven into Mexico before. When I lived in Michigan, I drove to Mexico. So, I know what I'm talking about when I say two things. But, I actually drove into Mexico on accident once in a rental car that I had picked up 24 hours earlier in East Lansing, Michigan.
Totally normal.
Totally normal. Yeah. I was only in Mexico that time for like 5 minutes, and that really confused the border guards on the northbound side.
Would you go to El Paso and cross into Juarez, and you're like, oh shit, and then turned around?
It was Brownsville, actually.
Brownsville, okay.
Yeah, it was literally an accident. Like, I was super tired because I've been up for 24 hours, and I was like trying to find a place to park. And I saw a turn, and I turned onto the bridge, and I was like, I'll just go across and come back. That was a dumb idea.
Why did you drive to? Who goes to Brownsville? Why did you go there?
It's an entirely different story. Listen, I think that we have more similarities than differences here. I just do things like that. Like, I once drove to the Hudson Bay also. So, I mean, I just do weird stuff, that's what I do.
I'm with you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Lee, last question from me, and then I'll let Jeff take the wheel. But on your travels, have you seen a lot of people traveling with kids? And if so, what do you recommend for anybody who might want to do this with their children?
Yeah, I mean, now it's like kind of a big thing, especially in like the kind of blogging world, people traveling with families and stuff like that. And yeah, it could be done. I mean, it's, a different animal, obviously, and you have to take different things into consideration, especially if you're going to educate your kids on the road, that type of thing, and depending on how old they are. But yeah, I mean, people do it for sure. And listen, I wish I had traveled as a kid, but I also think that I appreciate everything more because I did not. Yeah. So, I mean, it really kind of depends on how you're brought up. I mean, my family had no money, so it was a little bit different. And, it kind of depends on the situation. Like, I see people camping with their kids, or, if you're traveling like luxuriously with the kid, it's a different story. So it really kind of depends, but it's definitely doable regardless.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me. So I was in, I guess it was probably like somewhere around Luxor, Aswan, something like that in southern Egypt. And we were taking one of these Nile riverboat cruises. And there was this family from Seattle or something that were taking a year off to travel the world. And they were just, educating their kids on the road. And I thought it was fascinating. This is like 2003 or 4, so it was before that was like a thing. Like I never even heard of it. And whenever Jillian brings this up, and it's not the first time you've brought this up, Jillian, about traveling the world with your kids, I think of that family and I wonder what happened to them. So I don't know, if you guys are watching, you should give me a call and let me know what happened.
Well, it's been a thing with like Europeans and Aussies and stuff like that for a long time. Like I've met people over the years to do it. It's kind of just catching on now with Americans, just like traveling in general is, with everything on social media and TV and everything, people see you can do it. And they also see you don't have to be married to your job for your whole life. You can actually like get out there and do stuff and still like make a living and be successful and all that.
Yeah, no, it's really great. So I saw actually commented on your Instagram today about some photos that you took in Egypt. Egypt's one of my favorite places in the world.
It's great.
And you apparently have been there 10 times.
10 times. Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, I thought I was kind of an Egypt file. I've been there 5 times. I thought that was pretty good, but 10, man, everything you do, you just do it to the extreme, apparently.
Well, the other thing about Egypt is you got to remember that Cairo is kind of a hub city for traveling around that part of Africa, like places like the Sudan and, Eritrea and places like that. So a lot of times I'll be in Egypt for like a night or two in Cairo, but then I've also taken big trips around Egypt. So I've been, everywhere over the years. And then I also went to Egypt to go into Libya and, this type of thing. And Egypt was my first foray into Africa back in 2000 as well.
It's interesting because my first trip to Europe was to London, much like yours was. And my first foray into Africa was Cairo as well.
Yeah.
And mine was like 2001 was when I was there. So like I'm just like cycled 1 year behind you apparently.
Where was your first spot in Asia? I was Japan.
Well, no, I've never been to Japan, actually. My first time in Asia was probably somewhere in the Middle East, like Jordan or Israel, because those are technically Asia.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe Istanbul. But I guess Istanbul is the Europe side of the continent. I'm not really sure. It's right on the line.
It's actually both. It's the only city in the world that's on 2 continents.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. So that maybe it was Istanbul, but I went to China last year, and that was fascinating. And then I've got this thing, coronavirus, and brought it back to the world. Because I was in China in the fall, and when I came back, and I'm like, man, I hope I didn't start this thing.
I was there at the end of October. That's kind of funny, man. Same thing.
I'm telling you, you're following me around. I was there at the beginning of October, though, so we can blame Lee instead of me.
There you go. It's all my fault.
Yeah, China was really, really interesting as a place. Like, it was just cool to see some of that stuff. And I would like to go back, but probably not this year.
Yeah, man.
I've been to China. Going to China. I'm just declaring that right now. I am not. I never really was. But everybody I know has come back with some kind of illness from China, like whether it's food poisoning or some other illness. And so it's just never been of interest to me.
I had a slight fever and a cough, but I don't think it was anything serious. That was a joke.
I know.
Can you taste and smell?
Yeah, no, just for a little while I couldn't, but which was really convenient because they eat some weird stuff there. Like it's almost true. Like you see like scorpions on sticks and stuff in China. It's a different sort of place.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool to go there. So, so you talked about on somebody's show about Namibia and about how much you like Namibia. Mm-hmm. And I've wanted to do a road trip in Namibia for a while. What do you think? Is that something I should try? Is that fun? Is it safe?
Man. That's the most underrated country in the whole world, Namibia, man. There's so much good stuff to do there. And road trip is really the only way to do it because everything is spread out. Like the distances are very vast between places of interest, but really from north to south, there's very few places in the world that pack more of a punch than Namibia because everything's good, especially if you like desert scenery. And it's the only place in the world where like the sand dunes of the desert meet the ocean. And
so cool.
it's about as beautiful as it gets. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Cool. I definitely want to check out Namibia. That's on the list. What do you think? Obviously, I'm just going to ask you about random places for a minute because there are places I like and I think are underrated. I think Ethiopia is dramatically underrated. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, Ethiopia would be right up there with Bolivia and Namibia as the most underrated places in the world. I've been to Ethiopia, and I'm not even exaggerating, probably 20 times. Same thing. It's a hub city, Addis. You know, they have a great airline, and Ethiopia has so much. Like, if you go and like kind of read the history of the world, I mean, the Ark of the Covenant is said to be there actually in Axum, and then Lalibela is one of the coolest places I've ever been. The Danakil Depression. I mean, Addis is one of the top 3 cities in.
Addis is amazing, actually.
Yeah, in Africa. There's so much to see and do, and you have the native people there. It's just an awesome place.
Yeah, their culture is amazing. I mean, what people don't realize is, I think the most interesting thing about it to me is that they've never been colonized. They're the only African nation never to be colonized. So that, like, until the sort of, communist revolution in the 80s, they had never, they had an unbroken empire all the way back to the Queen of Sheba. Like,
yeah, and as I'm drinking coffee from like Pete's here, Ethiopia has the best coffee in the world.
Unbelievable.
And it's not even close.
It's so good. The coffee at the airport in Ethiopia is better than any coffee I've had anywhere else in the world.
Really?
It's so good. It's ridiculous. Like, everywhere in Ethiopia, the coffee is just like, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
And you can't get, I mean, if you buy Ethiopian coffee in the States, it's not the same. You have to get it fresh in there.
And it has to be prepared. You have to have those little corn nut things or whatever they give you with the coffee.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So I actually went to Addis because it's in the same time zone as Kilimanjaro, and it's 10,000 feet. So I was like, oh, I can just go hang out in Addis for like a week and sort of pre-acclimatize. And I think it might have made the difference for me, actually, because I made it. My brother didn't do that, and he didn't make it. So, I'm not going to say it was, but it was actually really great. And I went there just on a whim, because it was in the right time zone, and it was a short flight to Tanzania from there. But it turned out to be amazing, and I definitely want to go back, especially to the north. Like, I just hung out in Addis and thought it was amazing.
Yeah, the north of Ethiopia is the best part of it, and trust me, it's awesome, and it's worth going back to. And neighboring Eritrea is really cool as well, and obviously Kenya is amazing. East Africa is just awesome, and even Djibouti's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, that's great. I loved Africa. Like, this is the first time I ever went anywhere in Africa besides Egypt. And I mean, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia is so much different than Egypt, but also so amazing.
Right.
So you said Bolivia too. That was your third underrated place.
Yeah, I think Bolivia is amazing.
Yeah, I've gotten close to Bolivia when I was in Peru on Lake Titicaca, but I didn't get across the border. So
it's just fun to say Titicaca over and over, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But Bolivia is awesome, man. The Altiplano in the south there is beautiful as anything you've ever seen. It's at altitude, it's like 18,000 feet, so it's almost the height of Kilimanjaro. And you've seen the photos. I don't know if you realize like where they're from, but that's where they're from. Like, with people doing these stupid like poses, like it looks just like the sky meets the the water basically. But that's Bolivia. And La Paz is the highest capital city in the world. And they have this thing called the most dangerous road, where you just basically bomb down a hill for like 15,000 feet. And it's just so cool, man. And it's just a great place. Interesting, culture, similar to Peru with the Incan thing going on, but very different than Peru, totally different landscape. In Titicaca, you get a little bit of both. But if you go to like Lima or, Nazca or whatever, totally different than going to La Paz or Cochabamba or like, Santa Cruz or one of these places in Bolivia. It's just awesome.
Nazca is pretty amazing, though. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, flying over the Nasca Lines has got to be one of the most bizarre experiences of my life.
It's just weird, and it happens so fast, and you're almost like done by the time you realize what the hell just happened,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. So for people that don't know, the Nazca Lines are giant petroglyphs carved into the ground that can only be seen from the air, and they're clearly man-made, and there's no one really knows why they're there.
Right, but it's a total mystery, and like when you see it, they're massive. You don't realize because you have to see them from the air, so it's hard to comprehend the size of them.
Yeah, no, they're really weird, and they're clearly man-made because they're like spiders and birds and things like that, monkeys.
Right.
And yeah, it's fascinating. Well, I mean, I could talk to you about different places in the world forever, and I mean, you made the mistake of giving me your cell phone number, so I'm going to text you every time I want to go the rest of my life.
You did make a mistake. Hey, Lee, I was thinking about going to
Yeah. Well, at least I know when I want to plan my South Pole trip, who to call, right? Like that's the one thing. So we should share your website, your blog. It's just your name.com, right? Lee Abbamonte.
Yeah, LeeAbbamonte.com, and then everything on social media is at Lee Abbamonte, and that's LeeAbbamonte, just like you see at the bottom of my little picture thing there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I love your Instagram, like I said, and your Facebook page is pretty much the same as your Instagram. I mean, it seems like you're doing a lot of sharing there. So it's amazing.
Yep. We have a constant little debate between Jeffrey and I about one thing, Lee. Maybe you can clear it up for us.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about a cruise to the South Pole, because I understand the only way you can get to the South Pole is to cruise on down there.
Well, you can get there other ways.
Okay, but how do you feel about cruising in general?
Well, that's an interesting question. I used to be total anti-cruise, right? And then I only went on one cruise in 2007. I got a really good deal on like Carnival to go to like 5 places when I was still trying to go to all the countries, right? And I was like, oh, that's a great deal. $500, I get 5 new places. It was horrible. It was a horrible thing. But then I started going on I upgraded and started going on nicer cruise lines that are smaller. And they started going to like kind of smaller places than just the major, ports, and just had a great experience. And it's basically a luxury hotel that moves. So every day you're in a different place. And if you find the right cruise line, they'll let you stay basically all day and sometimes overnight. So you can really, see a place. I mean, it's not the same as going for a week, but you could do a lot in a day if you really try. So I'm not anti-cruise, but I'm not pro-cruise. And right now I wouldn't be going on any cruises anytime soon. But
I don't think anybody's going on any cruises.
I have 2 cruises booked right now, by the way, just to be clear. 2 of them booked, although one of them will probably cancel. And the other one I hope doesn't, because my other one is Antarctica. And that is a small cruise line. It's a 200 passenger boat and all that. And
that's the one I probably would still go on, just because I know a bunch of people who do those things, and they're going to be taking extreme caution. And, you're probably not going to get locked out of one of those, and they're going to make you probably quarantine when you get down there and take a bunch of tests.
Right. Well, mine's booked for 2022. So it's like the next season. It's not this Antarctica season. It's the next Antarctica season. So I think I'll be okay for that one. Yeah. But I actually like Carnival cruises. This is the thing Jillian and I talk about. I have a platinum membership on Carnival. I have stock in their company only since it tanked. That's when
I got crushed.
Yeah, I was trying to buy. But I like Carnival cruises, but I do agree with you. The ports matter. You need to pick the ones that have more time in port, because you don't want to just get off the boat and hang out at a beach with a bunch of other drunk people from your cruise ship. You want to pop on a cab and go. I mean, I've done some of the best exploring off of a cruise ship, where one time we were in 2 days in the Dominican Republic, and I rented a car and didn't even come back to the ship at night. Right? Like that's awesome. But I mean, it can get a little redundant. And like you said, if you go on a 5-day or 7-day cruise and go to 5 ports and you're only there for a few hours at each port, it's not very fun.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Or if it's Tuesday, that means you're in St. Thomas. That's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? So I like to go different places, obviously. And, if I'll just shout out my favorite cruise line. It's called Azamara. And for that reason, it's small ships. There's 3 of them, and they just kind of circumnavigate the globe. And they go to like crazy places, like, in the middle of nowhere, like even like Seychelles and places like that,
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would do that cruise. I would absolutely do a cruise like that.
Yeah, you go to the Seychelles, I'll go with you.
Yeah. So Antarctica will be my 7th continent. I've only ever met, besides you, I've only ever met one person that's been to 7 continents. So I thought that would be cool, because I'm weird. I would just go to 7 continents. I just want to do it to say I did it, right? But I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about the Antarctica thing. So.
You should be, man. It's the best place in the world. Honestly, I mean, I love it. So, and your cruise probably will stop at the Falkland Islands as well, which I absolutely love. And you'll see the king penguins there. They're incredible. And man, just get a good camera and enjoy your time there. It's a special place.
I've wanted to go to the Falklands for a long time too. That's another one. Actually, another place have you been to Tristan da Cunha?
No, that's one of the 4 places I've not yet been to.
That's a hard one to get to. I really want to go there just because it's so dang hard to get there.
Yeah, I was. It's funny. I was in Ushuaia a couple years ago, and I was I had paid for a boat that was going to stop in Tristan da Cunha and go from South America to Africa. And then I was literally down in Ushuaia, and I was like, man, screw this. I don't really want to go. And I didn't go. And then it turns out the boat didn't land in Tristan anyway, because it's only 1 out of 3 boats actually land there. So it would have been 4 weeks of my life plus like 10 grand. And I was like, screw it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really crazy because like Jillian, I don't know if you know this, but like you can't fly there. Like you have to take a boat, and the boats are like, they only go there like once a month. Like so you either have to stay for like an hour or you have to stay for like a month when you go.
Yeah,
there.
It's not even once a month, man. It's like once or twice a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, right? It's just really crazy. So it's very difficult to get to.
Yep.
But, yeah, and I saw like some weird story about it recently somewhere or another. But anyway, listen, Jillian, do you have any more questions before we wrap up here?
No, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, Lee, for joining us. And
You're welcome.
Everybody else, if you want to just stick around, Jeff and I will wrap up the show. Thanks, Lee.
Thank
All
you,
right, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Bye.
Go!
So I could have talked to Lee forever, but I would have started boring even you. I would have been like, hey, what do you think about? And I would have named some obscure place that no one else has heard of, like Tristan, right? I'm glad he knew, because like I think I've mentioned Tristan to a couple of people in my life, and no one's ever even known what I was talking about, except for Jason Miller. He always knows these things. But he probably is the one that told me about it, because he's always sharing like weird articles about places that I've never heard of with me. So
well, yeah. So that was awesome, though. I mean, like, geez, and like, you know, I thought we were going to talk to a guy who has gone to, you know, all these places because he could do it, but he like puts his money where his mouth is. He not just went to all these places because he could do it. He continues to go and travel and check places out. I mean, what was he saying? He's been to Ethiopia 20 times. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And also 4 countries. Did you catch that? Since May.
I know. I don't
ask him that. Like, what 4 countries did you go to since May?
I know. I wish we did. And I felt like I just wanted to hear him talk. Like I didn't want to interrupt him with anything. But it was I just don't even know what 4 countries. Lee, come back. We need to know what those 4 countries were.
I'll just text him. I have his cell phone. No, but like the other question too is like somebody asked on the poll that I put up where he plans to go next. Like, is he going to do like a low Earth orbit thing, or like go to interplanetary travel or something? And like I thought that was a really interesting question. Like, I would actually like to know, would Lee sign up for like Virgin Galactic or something? You know, like we should have asked him that too, because I've been to every place in the world. You know, pretty much. Then, you know, maybe that's the next step. Like, you know, go to space. I mean, go to the moon, right? Like, you know, who's really well traveled, who we should get on the show, and I'm sure he's watching right now because he's probably a huge fan, is Buzz Aldrin. I don't know if you know Dr. Aldrin.
A huge fan of the show.
Buzz to his friends, huge fan of the show. Buzz has been to the South Pole and to the moon, so you know, top that, Lee.
Yeah, no kidding.
Buzz actually went to the South Pole a couple years ago. It's weird. That's how I got on this kick about going to the South Pole. I read about how Buzz Aldrin went to the South Pole, and I was like, how can like an 86-year-old man go to the South Pole? And then I was like, wait, if he can do it, I should be able to figure this out.
Nope. I don't know. Buzz Aldrin figured out some bigger things than that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it turns out I did figure it out. It just cost like $100,000, like Lee said, and I was like, maybe not this week.
I don't know. I found that fascinating, but I also don't want to bore our audience anymore, and I want to tell you my joke so badly.
Oh man, I didn't even find a joke. Let me think. Okay, go ahead. Tell me your joke.
Well, I just wanted to know, before I get to my joke, I wanted you to know that this is the first year I'm not going to Fiji because of COVID-19. I normally don't go because I don't have the money to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured you were going to say. Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you a joke now. I don't know if you know, actually, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you a joke. I'm just going to make a statement. I don't know if you know this, Jillian, but this is the first year I'm not going to Fiji because of COVID-19.
Oh, really?
It's also be the first year I've not gone to Fiji for any reason because I never go to Fiji. I've actually never been. And your joke is about as dumb as mine. So, but all kidding aside, I actually had that other cruise that I was alluding to was supposed to go to Fiji. And this is no lie, because of COVID-19, they changed the itinerary and made it a New Zealand cruise instead. And now I'm not sure what I want to do. So I literally am not going to Fiji because of COVID-19. Like that's an actual true statement. Like I have an itinerary that says I'm going to Fiji, and then I have an email that says, never mind, we're not going to Fiji. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to go to New Zealand, or I'm going to, cancel the cruise. I'm not sure.
I did get a bunch of emails that were similar to that. I mean, I had a cruise scheduled actually in March, and that got canceled.
June?
So. Oh, was it in June? It got canceled in March, though. Yeah,
I was going to say, I thought it was a June cruise for some reason.
It was, yeah.
Because you were trying to convince me to go, and I was like, no, I'm not going on a cruise. There's a global pandemic. And you're like, no, it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, it won't.
I don't remember that happening. I do remember asking you to go before said global pandemic started, but, I don't remember.
I feel like you were actually like in March going, well, it'll probably be fine by then. This thing will be over by then. Like you were saying that kind of stuff.
I knew the pandemic, like I remember friends telling me like when our kids go back to school next year in maybe like April or May. And it's at that time I started saying to people, our kids are not going back to school next year. And that was because my kids were so sick with Corona. I just knew there was no way that was happening.
Yeah. I mean, other than like a miraculous thing, like a vaccine that,
right.
Would come out super fast. I mean, it didn't come out that fast though.
It came out pretty fast. I mean, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Well, I know. I read they vaccinated 560,000 people in the last week in the U.S. That's a lot, but 350 million, and we need 70%, for herd immunity. So we need like 250 million people vaccinated in order to get to herd immunity in the U.S. So we're a ways away from that. They're supposed to be able to do like 20 million people a week starting in February though. So
oh wow.
So we're looking probably like mid-spring where we should be getting close to herd immunity.
So you're a lot more researched about this than I am.
Well, I mean, it also depends on what people do, right? Like some people just are like, I'm not taking the vaccine no matter what, which I think is crazy. If you have like a medical condition that prevents you from taking it, sure, absolutely. Or even a religious objection, but just not taking it because it's not tested enough. It's not that to me, that's silly. I mean, I don't want to get all political about it, but everything's got risk.
Right.
Everything has risk, but it's more risky to not take the vaccine than take it. We know that for sure right now.
Sure.
It's been tested that much, right? Like we know that you're better off not getting coronavirus.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you don't want to get coronavirus. So with that, I would say, Jillian, do you have anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I want to encourage everybody to live the best version of your last life ever.